The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha. Homage to the Dharma. Homage to the Sangha. Great Master Kazan is one of the ancestors in our lineage, and he wrote a treatise on how to do pure meditation. And the first sentence is this: pure meditation opens us so that we may directly realize the foundation of our minds and dwell content within our own Buddha nature. Now this is quite a mouthful, but I thought I'd start with pure meditation opens us. That's its purpose. It opens us. We don't open it. This is a clue, because we're not actually in charge, in a sense. We don't really know how it works. But if we meditate on a regular basis, it gradually changes us. Last night we were likening it to walking through mist. You come out all wet, but you don't know how that happened exactly. You're just soaked through. And it soaks through us, but we don't know quite how. Scientists keep trying to figure out how meditation works, and they still haven't done it. But we don't have to worry about that. We just need to put it into practice, in the faith that it helps us, and it does. Now we might think, pure meditation? My meditation isn't pure at all. I'm distracted all the time. I fall asleep. I don't know where to put my effort. I don't know quite how to do this. That's not pure meditation. But don't worry, because somehow it still works. Despite our best efforts, meditation works. Even when we think it's not very good, even when we think it's terrible, meditation works. Thank goodness. It is we who judge ourselves and think, oh, this isn't good enough, I'm not good enough, my meditation is terrible, it's certainly not pure, and I'm never going to find the foundation of my mind and dwell content within my own Buddha nature. It's just not on. However, we don't have to worry. We just need to keep making our faithful effort. And that's the important thing, to entrust ourselves to the practice in faith. Now, we often said that meditation isn't just what we do when we're sitting on our cushion or on our chair. We try to do it all the time, to be still in the midst of all the conditions of our lives. To come back to this moment right now, to pay attention to what we're doing, to see what our mind is doing, to see when we're starting to get upset or, what am I going to do here? What do I need to do? What am I doing right now? I'm cleaning my teeth. Okay, let me just clean my teeth and not be thinking about what I'm going to do later on. It's quite hard, but we keep trying to do that. And that is part of our pure meditation, that pure effort that we make, fallible as we are, impure as it sometimes seems to us, to just trust this effort that we keep making, to come back to this moment, to put the training into practice, to pay attention, to see what's going on with our body and our mind. Pure meditation opens us. It's liberating. It sounds wonderful, and yet actually it can be a little scary. Pure meditation opens us. Do I really want to be opened? What does it mean? Well, it's got a number of aspects. Being open to other people. This doesn't mean being just foolish or gullible, just, oh yes, whatever. We can't trust everybody to be honest, for example. We can barely trust ourselves to be honest. We still need to practice wisdom, common sense, wise discernment. Some situations we need to just stay away from, and that's fine. But we can try our best to see the good in people, to see that pure nature that's there in everybody, to see that they're really not all that different from us. We can speak to the goodnesses in another person and not just see them as annoying or a threat or separate from us, or someone we don't want anything to do with, or someone I quite like, but to see that actually we're all kind of the same. We're a lot like everybody else. We're not that different. We don't have to be afraid of other people, usually. If they've got a knife and we're in a dark alley, we might. But generally, we don't have to be afraid of people. It seems that most of us are actually somewhat afraid of people we don't know. We can be a little awkward in strange situations. Some people would rather face nuclear war than do a talk in public, Just not feeling at ease in social situations. I think many of us have this. Feeling separate. Here I am in my own little sphere, and that's everybody else out there, But when we practice meditation, this tends to dissolve a bit. That little sphere tends to melt a bit. You tend to become less fearful, less worried about what other people might think of us, less feeling separate from everybody else, more concerned with other people's welfare, more open, actually, more open to other beings, open to their needs, what they're like, to be willing to just kind of meet them on their own ground, as it were, and not so much feel like, When you think about people we've met or we know, it would seem that the ones who are the happiest are usually the ones who are kind to other beings, sympathetic to their difficulties, who are open, in fact. People who tend to be open in their dealings with others seem to be more at ease and happier than some of the rest of us. And conversely, people who are kind of shut off and fearful or resentful tend to be somewhat miserable. People who think mostly about themselves and don't think of other people, miserable, But in fact, we're all selfish. We all have our selfishnesses. We all get fearful. We all get, angry with other beings, resentful, and all that stuff. We all have our selfishness. But meditation helps us. It helps us to open up to other beings, to see our selfish ways, to see that we're getting upset about something, to see when somebody needs a little kindness, a little compassion, a friendly conversation or a sympathetic ear when somebody's having difficulty. It doesn't take a lot, but to see that and to respond, openness, and it helps both us and them. Seeing a homeless person huddled in the street, not thinking of them as something other, I don't want to see them. They're just like me. They're just in a very difficult situation. No different from myself. I could be that person, And to just maybe chat them up, give them something if it seems good, but not to sort of just scurry by and I don't see that person. We don't have to talk to every homeless person we meet, but now and then to connect with other beings and bridge that seeming gap. Pure meditation opens us also to ourselves. This is a bit more of a challenge. To our own anger and fear and selfishness. Our meditation opens us to these things so we can see them. We start to notice them. We were saying last night how we feel like we're, more distracted, more selfish, more mean than we used to be. But actually it's because we see it. We start to see it. And we see the effects that our selfishness or our irritation or whatever has on both ourselves and other people. So when we start to meditate, we see these things. We're opening ourselves up to them. We're willing to look and see. And this is not easy, and it takes quite a bit of courage. But it beats the heck out of not doing it. Because if we don't see these things, we still get controlled by them. They still pull us around. We're still the seeming victims of our own anger and desire and all that. But to see it, to see when we're getting upset before we say something hurtful to somebody, to see when we're afraid, getting nervous. What am I afraid of, actually? What's the worst that could happen? A plane could fall on me. Okay. Or see when we're being selfish about something and not thinking about other people or thinking about our effect on them. To see these things, to open ourselves up to seeing them without judgment. This is the thing. To do it with as little judgment as we can. To say without judgment altogether, it's a tall order because we constantly make judgments of ourselves, of other people, of the way life is, the way things are done, constantly making judgments and criticisms. And to see our judgment, but not judge our judgment, but just to try to relinquish. Look at that, this opinion of myself, our judgment of other people, our judgment of ourselves. Then we can be more open to other beings, more open to ourselves, more accepting of other people's shortcomings, and more accepting of our own shortcomings, of our own difficulties. And this helps immeasurably with suffering. Because most of us, as I said, spend a lot of time making judgments about other people, judgments about ourselves. They go together. If we're critical of other people, we tend to be critical of ourselves. And when we start to let go of that criticism and have compassion for other beings and compassion for ourselves, it helps. Each helps the other. If I'm being kind to other people, but I'm not being kind to myself, I'm missing something. And if I'm just being nice to myself, but I'm mean to other people, I'm missing something. But they actually go together. And we can be generous in our thoughts towards another person, see their good aspects, see them trying to help or trying to do their best, and not just see their faults, then we can do that with ourselves better. But it takes time to practice, because we have lifetimes maybe of self-judgment. The festival of Kishtigaba that we just did. Well, first a word about ceremonial. We do quite a bit of ceremonial. It's part of our Soto Zen tradition. And it's got a purpose. It helps us to open ourselves. Like meditation, it opens us. It opens us to something bigger than ourselves. We make bows. And bowing is a basic practice of Buddhism. We're not just bowing to a statue. Bowing to what it represents. That which is greater than we are. It's no accident that that statue is a lot bigger than any of us. It's something greater than ourselves. Buddha nature, that which is within all of us and within which we dwell, that which embraces everything. We're bowing to that. And bowing kind of bypasses the intellect. It opens us up. The very gesture is an opening. Raising something above our head, opening up the heart. And it's not something you can really explain in words. You have to just do it. And the more we do it, the more we understand why we do it. But we may not be able to put it into words exactly. But it opens us. It works on us. It gradually changes us like meditation. Even when we feel resistant, why are we doing this? I don't want to do it. Well, I was like that when I first began to bow, not here, but many, many years ago. I didn't want to do it. Now I look back and think, what was with that person who didn't want to bow? What's wrong with it? It's great. But at first I was resistant. But don't worry. It still helps us. It still helps us to open ourselves up, to relinquish a little of our self-partiality, as it were, a feeling of, well, I'm as good as anybody. I'm not going to bow to anybody, you know. There is something bigger than all of us. And that is really what we're aspiring to find when you do our meditation practice, to open up to that. When you do our ceremonies, to open up to that. Our music, you know. Reverend Master Jiyu was a musician. And so he wrote quite a bit of music for our liturgy, which is different from what most people do in Buddhism. But she knew that it actually has that great value of helping to open up the heart. It transcends words, culture, everything. It just speaks directly to the heart and helps us to open up, to look up and venerate the greater thing. So when we're doing a ceremony, we are opening ourselves up to something greater than ourselves. And we're all doing it together. And that's a great blessing. Because when you do something together, it gives it more oomph. That's a technical word. Than when we just do it by ourselves. Kishtagarbha, Bodhisattva. Somebody might have explained a bit about him. But Bodhisattvas, you can see them in different ways. But we can see them as an aspect of Buddha nature, something that we aspire to, something that actually we try to cultivate within ourselves. And Kishtagarbha he has made these great vows to save and protect beings who are vulnerable. Children, animals, women, especially women in childbirth, which back in the old days it was often people died in childbirth. Infants. We have these invocations. Two of them are really written for children. Rav Masterji, you wrote those. Because we used to have, we have children as part of the congregation. They have a part to do in the ceremony. And some of the invocations are about, especially kind of from their point of view. There were children, we can die. As children, we offer stones to, there's a tradition of children offering a stone to Kishtagarbha, Jizo, as an offering to give merit to other children who have died. So if a child knows a friend who has died, or even doesn't know somebody who has died, they can offer a stone for other children who have died. It's a beautiful practice for someone to be able to make an offering to help them deal with grief, actually, and to see people die, Kishtagarbha. This is my favorite picture of him, one of my favorite ones. There he is, looking down into hell. And he looks really kind of tough, He's not all pretty, he's just, he's got nice stuff on, but he's fairly determined, sitting there firmly, looking down into hell. Because he has made this vow to save all beings, not just the vulnerable, but all beings in the hells. Well, they're pretty vulnerable. And in Buddhism, there are 8 hot hells and 8 cold hells. That's a lot. But they're not permanent. You don't stay there forever. You can see them either as realms of rebirth, if you die in a bad way, having done a lot of dreadful things, we might end up in a hell. But people can also see them as states of mind in this very life. So if you have a lot of trouble with anger, really enraged, that's a hell. That's a hot hell. Jealousy, that's a hot hell. Lots of those hot, really painful states of mind. Envy, Cold hells, despair, hopelessness, fear, loneliness. They have a kind of cold, deadly quality. And I think we could think of 8 cold hells that we could be in. And Kishtagarbha helps beings in all these states. And this is us. We can help ourselves in all these states. Or maybe help another person who is suffering from despair. Somebody is really angry. Maybe we can help to diffuse that by not getting angry ourselves, but by just saying something skillful. Or just not making a fight. By just seeing that the person is suffering. And how can I help? What is it that actually is, what's the problem? Rather than, I won't be treated that way. Our ability to help ourselves when we're in hell, and to help other beings sometimes, when we see somebody else suffering from loneliness, despair, anger, jealousy, whatever. And for our own states of mind, when we have a difficult state of mind, whether it's something that's new to us, or something that comes up over and over again, which is more likely. Often we have habitual states of mind. We tend to, fall into anger or fall into despair. There it is again. Please, to open ourselves up to that, to see it, and to know that we can change. That's the thing. We can change. We're not stuck with being the way we think we are. And that's the great blessing. That is part of the hope, actually, that Kishtagarbha holds out to us. There he is, looking down into hell. All we have to do is look up and see him, or look up and see there is a way out of this. There is a way out of my painful states of mind. I can do something. First I have to be willing to open up and see it. And then I can find my way out. It may take a long time. It may constantly keep seeming to fall back in. But we can do something. We're not helpless. We're not completely bound by our karmic propensities. To be willing to admit that we need help, to open up to that. I need help, even if it's just to say, please help me, please help me with this. We all know moments of despair or just hopelessness, or times when it's really dark and hard. We could use a little help from our friends, and he's one of them. However we choose to look at that, taking refuge in our own true nature, taking refuge in the Sangha, or in our friend, or something that helps us. Not just taking refuge in going to see a movie, which sometimes that's helpful, but not always. But being willing to look and see, what do I need to do here? What is really going on? Why am I upset? Sometimes we feel at dis-ease and we don't know why. Why am I upset? I just said something unkind to somebody, or unskillful, or they could have misunderstood. I'm sorry. Can we go set it right? Say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, or whatever. Maybe we can. Sometimes we can't. The situation is gone, the moment has disappeared, the person's gone off, we may never see them again. But to see, okay, I'm sorry I did that. I'll try and do better. To forgive ourselves for our shortcomings and not to carry them around with us forever. But to open up and see our mistakes, to be willing to admit to that. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I got upset. Sorry I grabbed the thing. Sorry I was greedy and mean. Or whatever it might have been. Being willing, in one of these invocations we sang, it said something about the willingness to walk away from our preoccupation with suffering. That's interesting, isn't it? The willingness to walk away from our preoccupation with suffering. Doesn't mean the suffering disappears. But we can walk away from our obsessing about it. We can see it and relinquish the grip. I don't have to be endlessly involved in my stuff and my thoughts and my worries and my fears and my suffering and my pain and my everything. I can actually see it. There it is. Maybe I can just relinquish the grip and just come back to being here, sitting here right now. Is anybody harming me right now? No. Okay. Just to let it go as best we can. It may come back, to let it go as best we can. Without judgment, without saying, I should be doing better than this is awful, I'm just a terrible, pure meditation is not pure at all. It is still our pure intention. We have that pure intention, that pure effort, and to trust that, our intention, rather than that we're doing some great perfect deed. Because if we're waiting for our meditation to be perfect and pure, we might wait a while. Letting go of our judgment, our self-judgment. I don't deserve help. I don't deserve anything. Who are we to say that? I can't change, To be open and willing to admit to our mistakes. None of us is perfect. We all have mountains of selfishness to work on. We have plenty to do. But to see it with kindness, kindness to ourselves, kindness to others. When you see other people's faults, well, I'm no better, I made that stupid mistake just last week, or whatever. To see that none of us is perfect. And from there, we can actually have compassion. And we can open up to our own mistakes and open up to other people. When we judge, we can't see clearly. We're just stuck in judgment. We can't really accept it. But when we relinquish the judgment a little bit, we can see more clearly what we need to do. And we can see the good heart, both in ourselves and in other beings. The openness to that. Coming back to Great Master Kazan, where we started. Pure meditation opens us so that we may directly realize the foundation of our minds, and dwell content within our own Buddha nature. Now the implications of this are vast, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But this is the way to the end of suffering. Pure meditation opens us so that we may directly realize the foundation of our minds and dwell content within our own Buddha nature. And it starts with pure meditation, a simple, faithful, humble sitting down to sit still in the midst of all the conditions of our lives. It just begins with that. And that's our talk for the day.